To keep America safe from enemy bombings during World War II, civil defense wardens patrolled streets during blackout conditions and air raids. They were issued a heavy metal hat, an armband with the civil defense symbol, a muslin bag, a large black flashlight, binoculars, and sometimes a gas mask. Now, their job was to make sure that all lights were out during air raids. They were also to carry messages from one command post to another if communications were knocked out. Well, in recognition of the thousands of men and women who patrolled their neighborhoods at night, I dedicate the signal lights block. Well, the blue triangles are beacons, and the yellow triangles symbolize the light giving the all-clear signal. Well, 4 blocks set together create a secondary pattern in the center. Well, one of the more unusual public service announcements in World War II was the 1942 song from Tony Pastor and his orchestra, "Obey Your Air Raid Warden." So this is how it goes. 1, be calm. 2, get under shelter. 3, don't run. Obey your air raid warden. Well, 4, stay home. 5, keep off the highway. 6, don't phone. Obey your air raid warden. Well, there are rules that you should know, what to do and where to go. When you hear the sirens blow, stop, look, and listen. 7, don't smoke. 8, help all the kiddies. Most of all, obey your air raid warden. Well, this song is lots of fun, and I'm sure it made people pay attention. Well, signal lights is lots of fun too. So let's get started. The signal lights pattern was published in 1942 by the Kansas City Star. This is what it looked like then. Mrs. Troutman from Iowa designed this, and she said use heavily contrasting fabrics for the block. Oh my gosh, look at all those little triangles. Well, I love this poster. This is from New Hampshire. It says, New Hampshire needs air raid wardens. And here is poor Uncle Sam sitting there on a chair, his hat on the ground beside him. He's at a gun shooting down German airplanes. 2 young people are signing up. They have their helmets on. They have their armbands. The young man is holding a hose, and the young woman has a bucket, just in case the German airplanes shoot down the local fire stations. They are ready. And I'm ready too. This is what the block looks like. There's a total of 16 triangles. That's what we're going to start cutting first. You need to have 4 yellows. And I think of this yellow as being the brightest one, the beacon. And then you need to have 3 of the blue for each one of the 4 sets. So I'm going to start and get those layer cut. I already have them all stacked up. These pieces are 3.5 inches wide. The yellow is 3.5 by 9. And I actually have 2 of the blues all stacked up. They're 3.5 inches by 13 inches. So I can layer cut. Well, there is a template. It looks like this. The most important thing to know is that the triangle has a blunt top on it. Well, you could take your pen. Oh, you can do it however you want, but you could just mark up and down and then take your ruler and cut on the lines with your template. But I'm always in for speed. I have the Kaleidoscope Ruler, and I put a piece of tape at 3 7/8 inches. So now I'm just going to put that 3 7/8 inch right up along there. It has a blunt top, but I can cut at the same time instead of drawing. So just up and down. Now you take your triangle and turn it in the opposite direction. And when you're cutting, the most important thing is to not get it too wide right up at the top section. Let me line that up again, all nice and blunt. And one more set, and I'll be done with all 4 of the yellow. And then you just keep on going. Take that yellow, get rid of it, and continue cutting this strip. It's coming back at me. Keep on cutting the strip, and you're going to have a total of all of your triangles that you need. One more, line it up, and you know you might even be really smart to take these triangles and check them against your template. Make sure it's not too wide up there. I'm just going to show you one unit. Actually, you need to have a total of 4, but let's just do one. To do one set, you need to have the blue, 2 blue on the bottom row with a yellow right in the middle, and then up in the top, you need 1 more triangle. We'll just set these aside, and we'll do those in just a minute. Now, take the yellow and flip it right sides together to the blue. And right down on the bottom, you see that blunt top creates that line that you're going to follow. So it hangs over up at the top. Let me get that lined up. But if you just get that straight line, it's going to work out perfect. It is a 1/4 inch seam. You don't need to do a scant. You don't need to do a generous. Just a good old 1/4 inch seam. That works really well. And so just stitch it right along there. And take this. See how that's lined up? Open and press it so that the triangle is behind the blue. So that the seam is right behind the blue. Now the next one, you take 1 more triangle, and it's going to go right like this. This time, take it and flip it right sides together and line up that very same thing at the top of the triangle. We kind of switch back and forth, but that's your 1/4 inch seam. Right when you stitch a 1/4 inch, then your stitching is perfect right along there. Okay, let me just drop this down there and stitch along there. You know, all of the children remember the air raid drills very well, because one girl remembers about how the sound went off in her neighborhood and everybody ran inside, turned off all their lights but turned on their radio. And then their air raid master would go through the neighborhood, and she said occasionally they would hear him yell, "Turn your lights off." And then everybody knew, that's looking great. That's exactly what you want. Again, I press towards the blue. That's from the back side. We just need this one right up at the top, and that'll be the whole unit. This time, flip it right sides together, and you've got this perfect way to line it up. You've got your little yellow tip sticking out there. Line up on that side, and then it's the same thing right on the opposite side. So stitch right across there. Actually, it's not a real easy pattern to do, but on the other hand, it's not hard to do. Kind of just in between there, because you're going to make 4 exactly like this, and you see it's not hard at all. So then when you open it up and you press your seams again towards the dark blue, you can see that you have this 1/4 inch seam right along here and here. And all you need to do before you go on is to just cut off those side tips, and you're on a roll. So let me get the other 3 completed. My 4 sets of triangles are finished. Now I'm ready for the next step. Now when you look at the block, I look at this as the beacon of light, and this being the really bright light. Now you need to select a fabric that's like a softer glow of light, and then also a background. Now you need pairs of those 2 fabrics. They are already wrong sides together when I cut. The pieces are 3 1/4 inches by 7 3/4 inches. You need a pair of the background and a pair of the light yellow to finish the block. So just take a ruler. How about a 4 by 14? That would be just perfect. I'm going to line it up corner to corner. Rectangles. Boy, we don't cut rectangles too often, do we? And just take this one and cut it as well. Now, the tricky part about this is that the rectangles need to have their straight edges on the outside of this next patch. That's the tricky part. So this is the straight edge. This is what we have to remember. This has to be in the outside edge. So it just gets kind of crazy. I'm going to take this piece and turn it like that. That's the straight edge. It's on the outside. And this patch, we're actually going to have to like flip it over so that straight edge is still on the outside. So let's just see if we can do this. Oh my gosh, you think you're going to have problems with this? I'm dyslexic. It really gets confusing. But I know those are right. They're kind of odd shapes, aren't they? They are 2 layers, so we'll have to separate them out. Now, I'm going to work just on the yellow and flip the triangles right sides together to that light medium. And this is an easy match because all you're going to do is line up the straight edges across the top. Just get those lined up across the top. Oh, we have a great tip hanging out on the bottom. But we're just going to cut that off in just a second. So let's get this all lined up. Your stiletto is so useful. Oh my gosh, I don't think I can work without my stiletto. It's always there, always ready to match up my pieces. And right here, you're going to hold your seams flat as you sew over them. You have to make a little adjustment in your fabric so that you stitch right through that point. That'll be perfect. All right, when you get down to the bottom, hold on to that nice long tip and get that sewing right through there. Now, at this point, I think it's pretty important to press with your iron. Take the patch, set the seam on the top. This is the bias. Set the seam on the top and then open and press into it. You want to make sure you get clear down to that tip. It'd be so easy to press that crooked, wouldn't it? Now, let's take this and just trim off this tip straight with the rest of the triangle. Just take your ruler, line that up, and just trim off that mighty tip and get rid of it. Now, we have one side done. Let's just put this back over here where it was. We have the straight edge on the outside of the triangle. So we're just going to take this, flip it right sides together, and once again, line it up nice and straight across the top. Oh, and good thing we trimmed off that tip at the bottom because there's no way we would have been able to stitch right along there. So let's just get this one sewn onto it. You know, there was a young man. His name was Robert Bruce, and his father also had one of those portable fire extinguishers when he was an air raid warden. Well, his father took that job so serious. It was really important to him that he did it correctly. But Robert said that fire extinguisher would only shoot water 5 feet in the air. And he always wondered, you know, how useful would that be, 5 feet in the air? And so he said, as time went on, there we go. As time went on, the helmet ended up in the garden as a planter. But that fire extinguisher was very useful in taking care of their plants. So everything worked out good in the end anyways. Now this patch is very interesting. We've got that long tip down at the bottom, but we're going to square it up. The best ruler is to use the 6.5-inch fussy cut ruler. So I'm just going to place the ruler right down in here in the corner. We want to trim 1/4 inch away. See how that little square right there, you put that right on the tip. Let's line this right along here and up here. There is just a tiny, tiny bit to trim off. So let's just go here and right down along here and across here. And oh my gosh, there's just that little tip to trim off right there. And that is the patch. It's perfect. Now all I have to do is make 3 more just like this one. These patches are looking bright. Well, next you need your center square. For the 12.5-inch block, it is a 5 1/4 inch square. I used the large scale multicolored print, but look how cute a fussy cut looks right in the middle of the 6-inch finished block. Just so cute, but the 12-inch, oh, just won't work. So Now I have my center square on point, so I can place my 4 patches around. Let's take the ones with the medium yellow. They go on opposite sides of that 5 1/4 inch square. And then the background, let's just place on opposite sides. So you can really get a sense of how the block's going to look. Now, the next most important thing for finishing this block are these 2 little straight pins. You're gonna really need them because you want to pin 1/4 inch in from the end. I'm just going to take this one patch right here, flip it right sides together, and it's very interesting because you have a little 1/4 inch of the red sticking out on this side and on this side. With your pin, you want to take and place the pin through all thicknesses 1/4 inch in from what is the corner. 1/4 inch in on that corner. And let me just line this up, put the pin in 1/4 inch in from that corner. Perfect. And we are just going to stitch from pin to pin. How easy is that? I told you this was an advanced block. Oh, I'm changing my mind. This is looking pretty good. Okay, I'm going to do needle down right on top of that pin. Just get that edge lined up there. Grab the stiletto. Keep these seams flat. No twisting on that seam. And just go right over to the other pin. And right when I get to that second pin, I'm going to stop and cut my threads. Okay, you always want to stop 1/4 inch away. Perfect. So you can see there and there. And all you do now is just pull out your pins, open, and you press the seams in towards the square. Now, we're going to repeat with the opposite side. It's exactly the same thing. Fold it right sides together. Put that pin in 1/4 inch away. This actually is just going to be wonderful. You know, I read about a little 13-year-old boy. He decided he would be an air raid warden. And he was really confident. He knew his whole town. But he said when they turned off all of those lights in that town, if it was a moonless night, oh my gosh, he said he actually had to feel his way around town. He said he just absolutely could not see where he was going. Just pretty amazing that a busy town could shut down. You wouldn't hear any cars or anything else in town. Pretty amazing. Okay, I'm to the next pin. Cut those threads and let's just open it up. Now, we've got the 2 on opposite sides. They're loose 1/4 inch on the edges. Now, we've just got 2 more to add. We're going to flip this piece right sides together to it and pull that first one out of the way so that you can literally get that pin again 1/4 inch in from the end. So this whole corner is just going to be open right in there. So let me sew this one across and the other one, and then I'll show you how to finish the block. So these guys are all just hanging out. They're loose up to the center square. Now, this is the last seam that we have to do on each one of these. So take the 2 pieces and flip them right sides together. Right here, I like to put a pin in and put the pin in from the fabric out towards the outside edge. That way you can still sew right along there. And then go here and fold everything else back. Fold the 2 seams back, one on the top and the one underneath, and put your pin in 1/4 inch. Oh, perfect. You want it to go in on the thread on the top side and come out on the thread on the bottom side. And let's just push the pin to the side. Now, right at this step, I like to sew from the outside edge in. So let's get this critical step done very carefully. I'm going to start out slow. Get my stiletto. Make sure everything is pulled back out of the way. Oh my gosh, that one underneath flipped forward. No way. Let's just get that out of the way. Stitch up to that pin. Gonna pull that pin out, and that's it. Let's take a look. See how it looks on the right side. So we've got to cut those threads. So open it up, get out the pins. Perfect. That's exactly what you want. Just to go right into that corner, but not over the corner. Looking good. Now the last step is the pressing, and wait till you see it from the back side because it lays so nice. You're going to take all of those seams that you just sewed, these seams, press them to the side, and everything else gets pressed in towards the middle. And it lays as flat as it can be. Oh, it's just too much fun. Well, don't stay up all night making your quilt block. When in doubt, lights out. To protect communities from being detected by the enemy, townspeople hung blackout drapes to keep the slightest sliver of light from escaping out into the streets. Well, air raid wardens would knock on their neighbor's door if necessary. Well, this quilt is to honor all of the dutiful citizens and their blackout curtains. Sally Murray pieced it, and she named it Blackout Quilt. That's very appropriate. It's a 20-block victory quilt in a straight setting separated by lattice and cornerstones. Well, Sally used a collection of scraps. She used light red, white, yellow, and blue fabrics, and they stand out great against the black. Well, there's just a touch of green as well. Well, this quilt tells the whole story, with Roosevelt and the silent star representing our reluctance to enter the war right here in the first row. We'll skyrocket for Pearl Harbor, and radio windmill for communication is in the second row. Well, the black background around signal lights really makes the block stand out. You know, even the patriotic block looks good on black. The airplane block is just so cute with its fabric in the third row. And then Liberty Star and the Victory Block are very fitting in the last row. When I thought that Victory Block was just too difficult for us, Sally is the one that insisted I write directions. In the end, she helped me out with those instructions. Well, her border treatment is simple, with a wide yellow folded border, followed by a wider blue, and then finished with a striking black. Just beautiful. And the quilting is magnificent in variegated thread. It's just an overall pattern, swirls everywhere. Oh, and the backing. The backing is perfect. It's glamorous pinup girls. It's the kind of girls that the servicemen love to see. They were known to paint these girls on the sides of their airplanes. Well, there is a song, When the Lights Go On Again, All Over the World. It was written by Vaughn Monroe in 1943. It was #1. The song refers to the practice of having to black out possible bombing targets and to avoid backlighting torpedo targets for offshore U-boats. Well, the second verse goes like this. When the lights go on again all over the world, and the ships will sail again all over the world, then we'll have time for things like wedding rings, and free hearts will sing when the lights go on again all over the world. Well, the all clear signal has sounded. It's time to come back to life and enjoy your quilting.